So Goldman Sachs think these 12 stocks are to buy due to the upside on earnings. Those are the names, but let's take a deeper dive because actually I disagree with them. But there's one or two which might be worth a look at in there. Don't forget to follow, share, like, repost, all the other things that people do on social media. Now, Boeing, let's start off with that one. And really, it's the difference in earnings estimates that they're talking about here. That there's a big gap, and certainly the Goldman's earnings estimate is sharply to the upside as well, which would suggest that stock's going to do well. However, I've got problems with this, and I have to disagree with them on Boeing, I'm afraid. That's just going sideways. That's the momentum. So they've looked at the fundamentals. Let me look at the charts and the technicals. I'll also zoom in, of course, to seasonality and what the big banks think there. And like I say, the three things I'm going to look at: the momentum, well, I'm afraid that's just sideways. You can look at seasonality and you can look at what the banks think, and it's a mixture of buy and hold. I'd really want to see a whole load of buys. And we can look at the broader trend on the chart, which is sort of upwards to sideways almost. It's a combination of the two. Again, not much suggesting that this is a screaming buy. So let's look at Seagate Technologies. Again, the same old things, and it looks very similar actually to Boeing. There's a bit of upside there, but a lot of sideways as well. Too many buys and holds, and this is too neutral. So I'll zoom in to all of those for you to see. It's what the banks think. Not enough buys, I'm afraid. Just too many holds and sells. And for hold, just read sell, because analysts are biased to the upside. And whenever they say hold, what they really mean is you should sell. Okay. Biogen. What about that then? Well, again, I'm afraid too much sideways movements or downward movements. In this case, the momentum is sideways to downwards. And whilst we've got a lot of buys, which is good, the seasonality doesn't look great, but mainly it's the charts which make me think, no, not one that I like. Moderna, you hear a lot about it, certainly because of the vaccine in the news. And what do we find? I'm afraid, once again, that's sideways. That's a downward trend. And you might say, well, surely that's given it value because it's gone back to the prices it was at in 2020. And you're right to some extent, but just look at what the banks and what the analysts think with this. Just not enough positivity, just a whole load of holds still. And you might say, well, they've got it wrong. Yep, you may well be right that they've got it wrong. But again, not enough to get me in there. Mosaic, downwards. And it might be worth looking at and keeping an eye on, because it might have just, after a long fall, flattened out before it has this massive rally, because it's certainly got room for the upside, but we're still waiting. We're waiting. So might be worth looking at. And this is why Goldman's might say, well, it's up there, but for the moment, not quite right for me. But I'd put it on a watch list. By the way, have a look at alpeshpatel.com/links to follow me on all my various social media. Now, this is a bit better. Upward trend, Baker Hughes. A bit overbought there. That concerns me, because in the past when it's done that, it's tended to dip a fair bit. Lots of buys, of course, over here, which is positive. That doesn't look too bad either, does it, for the coming months? So this one's a little bit better, but again, what concerns me is that's overbought, so not enough in its favor for me. Take-Two Interactive Software, bit over the shop, down there, now back, now sideways. That's not a clear cut. This is clear cut. This is very positive in terms of what the banks think. I zoom in and that is clear cut, and that's to see. But this has fallen off a cliff, risen back again, goes from 133. Maybe we go back to 220. That's a big rise, but the momentum is still a bit unclear. So probably one for a watch list and keep an eye on rather than to get in right now. Bunge, if you're a bit French. There you go, sideways. Now, let me zoom into this again. Chart, sideways, so that doesn't excite me. Momentum, sideways, doesn't excite me. Seasonality, nothing clear cut. And what the banks think, too many holds, I'm afraid, not enough buys. So we're out of that one. Pfizer, okay, again, one you're all familiar with. Let's zoom in, start off with the chart, way downward trend. Okay, it's back to 2020 levels, but massive downward trend. That is oversold now, and it's worth keeping an eye on Pfizer. And there's a lot of holds, but might be worth keeping an eye on. Not one I'd get in now, but I'd certainly keep on a watch list, because if it can go back from where it is here, back to the levels it has peaked at, you're going to get 100% return. Now, even if that took 2 to 3 years, that'd be worth it. So it's one on a watch list rather than get in right now. Live Nation Entertainment has had one hell of a ride up and down, hasn't it? Once again, let's zoom in. What do we see on the price? Sideways for a number of years. It's currently at $78. A lot of the banks like it. Some are saying hold. Seasonality not too bad. Sideways on the momentum. So not enough for me to dive in right now, but maybe keep on a watch list. Arista Networks, similarly. Well, now this is interesting. That is a very clear-cut upward trend, isn't it? You can see the direction there, but it's overbought. So cautious me is not willing to get in because it's overbought on the momentum. When that happens, it's happened before. Doesn't mean that it can't go up. It's just that in the short term, a few months, it may well drop, and I'd rather just not lose a whole year because that's what would have happened if this drops back down. Banks, fairly positive. Seasonality, not too bad. So I'm afraid not one for me. Expedia, all that travel, it's dropped off a cliff, hasn't it? Look at that, dropped off a cliff. And it's been going sideways, I'm afraid, on the momentum. So that hasn't made it more attractive to me. Momentum sideways. And what you can see here is some of the banks like it, some don't, some are even saying out and out sell. So again, nothing to excite me enough. And I'm afraid none of these made my approved filtered list, which goes through 10,000 stocks and then for the Great Investments Program and then filters those down into the best of the best. You can see I keep very stringent criteria and none of those met it, I'm afraid. If you'd like to learn more and know more, then please do have a look at my campaign for $1million.com, which will make you a hell of a better investor. And follow me on social media and like and